All right, the next thing we want to take a look at are the idea of geometric relations. So I'm going to create a new part. And I am going to move to the Sketch tab. I'm going to select under Sketch, which brings up the three planes, front, right, and top. And again, as I hover my mouse over them, they turn orange. Anytime something is orange means it's pre-selected, and if you use your left mouse button, you will select it. So I'm being told over here in the Property Manager to select a plane on which to create a sketch for the entity. So I will hover over the front plane and left click to select it. I'll then go to my line icon or line tool, select it, and again the Insert Line Property Manager shows up, so I'm just going to use it as sketched. And as I hover over the origin becomes pre-selected, and you see a yellow icon show up, which is the coincident icon, which is telling me that if I left click here, which I will, that the endpoint of the line is now connected or coincident with the origin. As I bring my line over into an approximate horizontal position, I again get a relation icon that says it's going to be horizontal. So I'll click here. If I move up, I can move it into the vertical. I get a vertical relation. And if I come off at some angle, I don't see any relation there. So I'm just going to click one more time. And you'll notice that as I continue clicking, the line tool stays active. So I'm going to hit the escape key to end that tool. So now what I have is a horizontal line that is black, with the left point being black and the right point being blue, which means that the right end of the line is not specified. So I could come in here but you'll see as if I try to move it up and down, the line doesn't move. If I come here and click on the horizontal line relation, I can delete it. So I'll hit the delete key, and now that line is no longer restricted to be horizontal. So if I want to put that back on, all I need to do is left click on the line, and you'll see that I get a pop-up menu over here on the right hand side, and I have a few different options. In this one I will say make horizontal. All right. Now, I also mentioned yesterday is that if I hover over a line, sometimes additional information will show up, and you'll see that the center point of this line now becomes a pickable point. So if I hover over that, it turns orange. You see the icon change, that I have a midpoint. So I'm going to left click and select that. And now if I hold my control key down and select the endpoint of this line up here and click it, now I have 2 points that are selected. You can see that they're both kind of this baby blue. And if I let go of the control key, I now get a pop-up window with multiple options. So in this case, I could make these 2 points coincident to each other, or I can hit Control Z and make them vertical to each other, which I will choose here. So I'm going to choose to make this point vertical to the center point here, and you can see that there is now a pair of vertical geometric relation flags, or what we would term them, that says that this point now is directly above the midpoint of that line. So if I move this point back and forth, I get the other line moves in accordance with it. If I want to fully define this line, I can come over to the Dimension tool. It's called the Smart Dimension tool. And then I can left click to activate the Smart Dimension tool, left click on the line. It gives me what is its assumed dimension in just using whatever the scale, default scale of the screen is. I can then left click to place that dimension, and I get a modify box up. So it tells me that it's 2.097 some number of decimal places, but I could change this to say 5, and I'll say OK. And what SolidWorks is updates the screen scale to make this length 5. The dimension tool is still active, so I can select this line, set the dimension. I can make that 3.5, and I could then say I'll set the height from this point to here, and I'll make that 5.5. So when I do this with these 3 dimensions and the various geometric relations, you can see down here in the lower right hand corner that my sketch is now fully defined, and that is what I want. So I'm going to go back to the line tool, and I'll put in another line, and you can see that there are these dim yellow lines that show up that would let me either make this line collinear to that line that I'm drawing or perpendicular. So you can see the perpendicular icon shows up there. So if I left click, I now create a line. I'm going to hit escape to get out of the line tool. That there is now a perpendicular icon, and if I hover over that perpendicular icon, you can it indicates what is being perpendicular. That point meaning these 2 lines are perpendicular to each other. Again, I could go in here, I could delete that. Nope. There we go. What I accidentally deleted here was the vertical. So let me put that one back in. And I need to zoom in here and try to get, there's the perpendicular. So as I hover over the perpendicular icon, you can see the 2 lines that are associated with it. I could left click and delete it, and now this line is no longer perpendicular. If I want to put that perpendicular back on, I could do Control Z, but let's assume that I hadn't done that. Since the geometric relation is between 2 entities, I'm going to have to hold down my Control key, which I'm doing now, and I'll select this line and this line. And when I let go of the Control key, I get the options. Now I have a couple things that show up here. I can make them perpendicular, I can make them collinear, I could make their lengths equal, but what I'll do here is I'll just make them perpendicular. So I'll do that. And I then could also make them equal to each other. So if I hold the Control key down, select here and here, and make them equal to each other, I now have 2 things going on. And again, my sketch is fully defined. I could then finish this sketch off by again using the line tool. I can select this point and that point to close off the sketch. You'll notice that the line tool is active, but it's not automatically drawing new lines because I've closed a particular sketch or closed a particular shape. I'll hit escape to get out of the tool. My sketch is fully defined, and what I could do here now is, well, the sketch is showing as being shaded because on the features tab, which is or on the sketch tab rather, which is active, there is this option for shaded sketch contour. So that might or might not be turned on by default for you. If it's turned off, the sketch, when it's a closed contour, wouldn't be shaded. We tend to leave it on as by default. So now I could now interrogate this to say, what is the actual area and where's the centroid of this sketch with relationship to the origin, which is here in the lower left hand corner. I can do that by going to the Evaluate tab, click on Section Properties, and I would find out that the total area of this shape is 20.50 square inches, and the centroid relative to the sketch origin is 2.68 in the X. So we look here in the lower right hand corner, we see our XY coordinates. So X positive to the right, 2.68 units, and up in the Y direction, 2.2. So those would be the XY coordinates of this particular shape. I'll say OK. And that I could then make a three-dimensional part out of this by now going directly from the Evaluate tab to the Features tab. I could select Extruded Boss Base, and once I do this, the view turns to a semi-isometric view. I can extend out the distance where I want the thickness to be. I can come over here and control it. Say I could put in 0.75, and when I say OK, I would get that full shape. For rotating the part, I'm going to click or hold down my middle mouse button, and moving my mouse right and left, I rotate around a horizontal axis. By holding the middle mouse button and moving up and down, I'm rotating around a horizontal axis. So either rotate around a vertical axis or a horizontal axis. And you can zoom in and out using the middle mouse button. You can always utilize the zoom to fit tool up here. This is referred to as the heads up toolbar. So I can click zoom to fit, and you can always use your view orientation box to set either the whatever you're looking for, the front, right, back, or even an isometric view. So I'll go back to my front. You'll notice they all have keyboard shortcuts. For instance, the isometric is Control-7. So if I use off my keyboard Control-7, I get my isometric view. If I want to now look at what are the properties of this three-dimensional shape, I go to Evaluate and I go to Mass Properties, and this tells me it's using some default density. The mass would be 0.56 pounds using that default density, and it gives me the volume and the surface area and the center of mass of the part with respect to the part origin. The part origin, if you're curious of where that is, if you hover over the existing planes over here in the feature manager tree, it shows you where the front plane is, where the top plane is, and where the right plane is, and where those intersect, that is the common origin. So this is the origin of my part. Okay, so that's the basics for very basic sketching and for how to use relations.